Peace, family, and welcome back to Bagging, the Black American Global Network. Now, who's ready for story time with your warrior chief, TC? You? Oh, cool. Well, it's the right time for it then. So, today I'll be going over how I made it to the cover of Time magazine. All right? So, to tell you how I made it to the cover of Time magazine, I'm gonna have to go back in time. All right. So, just like in my name, DCTC, the DC part stands for District of Columbia, the nation's capital. I grew up there. I was born and raised there. My family, I came in probably third or fourth generation DC. So the Chocolate City, as it was called when I was growing up. Now it's Baskin Robbins, because so it's gentrified and it's a whole different flavors here in the city. But nevertheless, always the more. Growing up here in DC in the 90s and early 2000s was a war zone. We were the murder capital for a couple years. Um, I ran the streets, young and thugging, had family members who were pimp hustlers, military men and women, killers and thieves. So I had all of that in my family before I got off the porch. And growing up, seeing these things, my first experience with death was at 8 years young. And it was my uncle on my mother's side who was killed right in our neighborhood. That was my first brush with death of the family that I could recall, and from someone who was a dear loved one to me. And I couldn't fully register it. It didn't really hit home, so to speak. Give me a second, guys. Thanks. I'm gonna get through this. No worries. So it really hit home to me that my Uncle Curtis was killed. Um, I just remember hearing that he died, but years later I found out he was shot and killed. Um, Fast forward some years later, I had more friends getting killed all the time. I had my own brushes with death. If you can see above my eyebrow, I have a cut right here. That was from a drive-by shooting when I was a young teen. Um, then I got in the streets with my crew, with my gang, and started to really see the life that I saw my uncles, cousins, and neighborhood folks. Got to live, hearing the stories and experience certain things with the infamous legends of DC that you probably already heard of. So many names, but Rayful Emmons, Tony Lewis, you know, Big Head, Mike, gosh, man, my uncle Reggie, my uncle Marlon, all of these guys running the streets, doing their thing out there. And I grew up just seeing all of these things and hearing all of these stories, and connecting with different folks, and growing up in uptown DC, but having family on the south side. I was always around different neighborhoods, even parts of PG, which is like his baby DC, because a lot of us that were on Section 8 were moved out of DC for various reasons, moved to PG, which is right around the corner from different parts of DC, because DC sits in the middle of Maryland and Virginia, and northern southern parts of Delaware. So, like, I just had family and friends all over the place, and so I'm gaining all of these different experiences with the street life. And I said, well, I'm going to test the waters myself, not because you know That's what my folks wanted me to do. My father, was a military man and did engineering. My mom was a homemaker, and an amazing wife for the time that they were together before they divorced. And she did nursing and different things like that, and admin assistant work. We got to see growing up, but we had little to nothing. And this is before my family tapped into our true royalness. This is before, we learned how to function outside of dysfunction. So having six children on my mom's side and six children on my dad's side, I grew up with a lot of different personalities, a lot of different energies, a lot of different spirits, a lot of different stories. So my story came about from being a sibling of two and being the eldest, and being in the middle of like the birth of a bunch of my cousins. So it was like close to maybe a 8, 9, maybe even 10 year, close to a 10-year gap where it wasn't a lot of male cousins that I had that were of my age. I really only had one. The rest of them were girls, a little bit older and then much younger. So my older cousins, you know, they were, much older than me. So I'm learning different things from them, a little bit faster than most folks would, but that's how it is in the hood. And, as I started to grow more and more, as a teen, my closest friends were just like in my family, military folks, pimp, hustlers, killers, and thieves. So this is what I grew up seeing. And when I say thieves, I mean like robbers, and stick up boys and things of that nature. So I said I want to experience a little bit of all of this. So I got to, and not to glorify any of that. I'm just sharing my story, in hopes that folks see as come to the tail end of this story time, how I was able to grow and things I was able to achieve in spite of all of the craziness that I got to see and learn about and experience on my own. So, with seeing all of these deaths and hearing about it and having friends go in and out of jail and going to prison, like I said, I wanted to experience certain things too. So, even though I did music in school, I loved the arts, always been artistic, um, love learning about finances and money, love sports, and was able to experience all of these things thanks to my mom, understanding that, hey, get him out the house so he's not breaking up everything and running rampant on his little sister who he thinks is his little brother. So, all of those things were a benefit for me. So I got into things like martial arts and, like I said, music, sports, and other programs in DC. But in the midst of that, I was still straddling the fence. When I was done doing all my school stuff and extracurriculars and scholastic things, I was on the block. I was on the block running around with my friends doing what young thugs do, what street crews and gangs do. So I got to experience those things, and I was able to survive. So I understand that I'm a survivor, and I'm a survivor in multiple ways. But this story time is specifically for the violence portion and some other golden nuggets and jewels that I'm going to share with you as you sit under the learning tree of the warrior chief. So as I'm gaining this understanding about life and the dynamics of people and hardships and trials and tribulations, as my uncle, who's my pastor growing up, would say, my aunt as well. Like, these are things that we go through when we live in impoverished places, but it wasn't all bad in the hood. So I'm not going to act like that it was all bad all the time, but it was very, very tumultuous. It was a hard struggle, and there was a lot of violence. Gun violence was the preferred use of violence most of the time. So as I'm going through my own stuff, and I get to a place where I'm like, man, you know what? I want to go to college. I was in Howard Upward Bound program, which is a summer program for inner city youth to pick a program in a sector that you can study on and then move forward with your collegiate scholastic career. So I picked business finance, business technology. So as I'm gaining more understanding of that and having those times and gaining new friends and connections, I got into go-go music and got into it with a band that was collective folks of the Howard Upward Bound from different schools and different hoods. And we did something that most young bands weren't doing. Most of the young bands were just from the same neighborhoods. We were from different parts of the city, but we came together because music is a universal language, which I love and I'm always going to be connected to. So, and this is before, tapping into the industry and things of that nature. So as I'm learning and gaining these experiences, I'm at these go-go's and I'm like, man, why can't we just party, man? Some beautiful girls here. The music is banging. I'm having a great time. Mama let me out the house. Like, let's get it. Let's have fun, enjoy ourselves, and make some moments, make some memories that can last a lifetime. But a lot of folks wanted to fight. And I'm a warrior, so I've been a fighter all my life, but that's not like my first thought, right? I'm a peaceful man more than anything else. I'm a lover more than anything else. But with that, you still have to protect. You still have to protect yourself, your loved ones, and those around you, especially when you're chosen. So I'll get into fights, but not really wanting to fight. Getting in shootouts, not really wanting to get into shootouts. Like all of these things were more so just in my mind at the time. It was like, hey, I'm defending my block, I'm defending my crew, I'm defending my hood, I'm defending my band, defending my family and friends. Like that's what I thought about, understanding the military tactics and the mental things that come with it. But I didn't understand the other idiosyncrasies and intricacies of those things. So some things became inevitable. So when you go out to these places and that type of energy, especially in that time frame, like energy's on an all-time high. So many spirits are not in the best place. Some will say they demonic, right? So for me, like just trying to gain an understanding on why our people want to be so violent to one another. So I love reading and research. So I was like, let me study this more. So as I started to study more about our history and systemic things, I was like, wow, we've been pit against each other as humans and as an ethnic group for a long time, way before I was in this new vessel. So when I really started to gain that understanding, I said, wow, this isn't something that I really want to be a part of because I don't see me as my true enemy, if that makes it make sense, right? But let me break that down a little bit more for those who might not understand that or overstand or understand that. Me looking at me as my enemy is me walking out the door, seeing another black brother and saying, that's my enemy because he's from a different street, from a different crew, different gang, different place of the country, whatever, right? That's just me looking at another black man and saying, this is my enemy because he ain't rolling with me. He ain't rocking with me. He ain't dressing like me. He don't speak like me, this, that, and the third, right? And as I'm gaining more knowledge and understanding from these experiences and one day starting to gain wisdom from it, I'm like, man, this is stupid. It's like totally ridiculous to be thinking like that. It does nothing for me. It does nothing for us. And not everybody's going to agree with, what I say, the people who I'm building with and for say, even within our ethnic group, right? But in community, but I can't automatically see you as an enemy unless you want to do bodily harm to me and my family and my loved ones. Like other than that, we just agree to disagree. So I'm experiencing all these things. I get to the college stage. I end up getting like going towards, building towards college, doing the ACT, SAT stuff, handle business in school, finally figure out, hey, I'm ready to, I'm going to graduate So I'm putting letters in, I'm putting tapes out there, you know, music and sports. Still trying to figure it out, but like, I'm not sure if I want to go to the military and keep that going, but I do want to fight for my people in some type of way. So I'm like, but I'm still in these streets. I'm still in these streets with my crew. Still in these streets with my gang. And I end up getting locked up at the same time I was supposed to be going away to college in August. And didn't even make it there. And I never forget, you know, the athletic director of the college saying, TC, like, you couldn't even make it here. If you make it here, we can look out for you. We got people in place to help you get to where you need to. We know where you come from. We know how you was raised. We know what type of young man you are. But you ain't even get here first. It's nothing we could do for you. That was heartbreaking. That tore me up. But it also lit another fire in my belly that was like, I'm not going to be perfect with everything I say and do, but I do not want to keep disappointing the people who are sacrificing or being obedient to allow me to get to a reward that I'm working so hard to do. So, you know, that part was gone, had to start all the way over, put myself in school some years later. But I'm still dealing with deaths. So maybe a year after that, a year maybe and some change after that, we move out of DC. We go to Maryland, which was a lifesaver and a game changer for all of us, especially at that time frame, because we were going down, me and my sister both. And my mom just wasn't having that. So she made the best decision she could. And I'm always thankful and grateful for her about that. And, you know, and we got there, but my father was killed a year later. He moved out of DC and moved down to North Carolina, Fayetteville. And a young man about a year older than me, late teen, because I was just turning 18, going on 19 that year. And he shot and killed my father after an argument in a fight while my dad was on crack cocaine. And he sold them the crack cocaine. And me and my mindset, especially because I'm still in it. Like, I'm not out of it. Like, I'm stepping away from a lot of things, but I'm not fully out, and I'm still in this, and I'm still with my crew. Like, my crew is still my crew. My homies still my homies. Like, for life. But I didn't call on them for this, but I spoke with my uncle, who is actually connected to this young man. We ride down to North Carolina, meet up with my uncle. We packed the car with all the weapons that we could. Went to go find the cat, just me and him. We didn't tell nobody. We just rolled out. And when we got to his house, ready to do the worst, the best possible thing actually happened. Because this black young teen, late teen, turned itself in like an hour before we got there. An hour before we got there. Now imagine, after me going to jail, could have been in prison, had 16 charges over my head, I make it out, luckily, and with the help of my mom, a good lawyer, great support system with the family and friends who were on a positive life goals, and some stash money that I had left over from hustling. And I'm about to get myself in a way worse place by going to do that. But that wasn't where my mind was at that time. And it was that one, like, my father was the best father in the world, you know, best dad, best husband in the world. Nah, he was not. I would love to say he was, but he wasn't. He did some awesome things for a short period of time, but not consistent or long enough for me to be able to say that. And I had to get healing from that. And any of the brothers and sisters who have been through that, and I know our community has been through that a lot, a tremendous deal, take your mental and spiritual health very serious. I'm a huge proponent of mental health therapy and awakening of the spirit without religiosity, and make sure that you do that for yourself, because you can't be better to others without being better to yourself. Okay, so we get down there. He turned himself in an hour before we got there. Then from there we go to the hospital, see my dad. My dad's laid up, can't really move, communicate, or anything. And I spoke to him and said some things, um, hopefully that he can hear, and that others are now seeing come to fruition. And it was pretty much that I don't like what you became, and I hate that we're having this conversation with you like laid up like this, but I love you, I accept you, I'm going to learn to forgive you, and I'm going to be a better man than you and be the best version of myself in spite of. And that was the last words that I spoke to him while he was still breathing. I said some other things to him and made my peace after, my spiritual and mental healing portions.